Hello, my friend. Today, you will hear a story that lives inside every dreamer, every fighter, and every person who ever faced a moment of choice. This is the story of risk and reward. It is not a story of one person. It is the story of all of us. The story of what happens when safety becomes a prison and courage becomes the key to freedom. In every age, every generation, there are two invisible paths before every human being. One is the path of comfort, smooth, predictable, safe. The other is the path of risk, uncertain, frightening, and full of unknowns. Most people choose the first path because it promises stability, but what they forget is that safety can also be the slowest form of death. Risk, on the other hand, is like the ocean. It's wide, deep, and dangerous, but it is also where discovery lives. Every invention, every success, every transformation that shaped our world began as a risk. The airplane was a risk. Electricity was a risk. Even love is a risk. But without it, life becomes silent and still. The story of risk and reward begins where comfort ends. It begins with the decision to step into the uncertain. Imagine a person standing at the edge of a cliff with a vast sea below. Behind them lies the land of safety, warm, familiar, but limited. Ahead lies the unknown. The person feels the wind on their face and their heart racing with fear. That is the moment of truth, the test of courage. Most people step back. A few, however, jump. And those few discover something powerful, that the fall isn't the end, it's the beginning. Because risk, by its nature, awakens the sleeping parts of the soul. It demands attention. It forces growth. It strips away illusions. When you take a risk, you learn things that safety will never teach. You learn who you are, what you value, and how strong your spirit truly is. But let's look deeper. Why do people fear risk so much? The reason is simple. Control. Humans want to know what will happen next. They want to predict the future before stepping forward. Risk denies that control. It whispers, "You don't know what will happen. You just have to trust," and that terrifies the mind. Yet the truth is, every single day, you already live with risk. You risk heartbreak when you care about someone. You risk failure when you chase a goal. You risk rejection when you speak your truth. Life itself is risk. The only difference is whether you take it consciously or unconsciously. History shows us that every great progress came from people who embraced risk. When explorers left their homes to sail across unknown seas, people called them foolish. When scientists experimented with strange new ideas, others called them dangerous. When dreamers built new technologies, people said, "It will never work." But behind every word of doubt, there was one truth. Someone dared to risk failure in exchange for possibility. And the reward? It was never just money or fame or success. The real reward was transformation. Risk turns fear into strength. It turns uncertainty into discovery. It turns small lives into great ones. Even when the risk fails, the lesson remains, and that lesson becomes gold. Think of it like this. Life gives every person two treasures, time and choice. Time is the canvas. Choice is the brush. Risk is the color. Without color, the painting stays dull. Without risk, the story stays incomplete. The people who live the brightest lives are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who dared, lost, learned, and tried again. But there is a secret hidden in this story. Risk and reward are not enemies. They are partners. The greater the risk, the greater the potential for reward. But the key lies in understanding intelligent risk. Not every leap is wise. Some are blind, some are brave. Intelligent risk means you understand the danger but choose courage anyway. It means you prepare, you plan, you trust yourself, and then you jump. The universe responds to courage. It does not reward fear. When you take a bold step, unseen doors begin to open. Opportunities appear. People help you. Energy flows. Why? Because risk signals life. It tells the world, I am ready to grow. And the world always meets those who are ready. There is a moment in every person's journey when the old life no longer fits. You feel restless. You sense something calling you forward, but you don't know what it is. That is risk whispering to you. It's saying, there's more waiting beyond what you know. And if you listen closely, you will feel it not as fear, but as freedom trying to be born. But remember this, reward does not come instantly. Risk often brings storms before sunshine. You might fail, fall, lose, or cry. You might question why you even tried. That's part of the test. Because reward doesn't just measure what you achieve, it measures what you become. In every failure, you earn something invisible: experience, resilience, and wisdom. Each fall teaches you where the ground is and how to rise stronger. That is why many successful people look back and say their failures were their greatest teachers. The pain of risk refines the spirit. Some people will never understand this. They will say, stay safe. Don't risk too much. They believe that avoiding failure is success. But the truth is, safety often steals your future quietly. It gives comfort today, but emptiness tomorrow. You might not lose money, but you lose meaning. And meaning is life's true reward. The story of risk and reward is not written in words. It's written in choices. Every decision you make tells part of that story. When you choose the safe path, your story stays small. When you choose the uncertain one, your story expands. Each risk is like a new chapter, filled with suspense, challenge, and growth. Now imagine this. You stand at the door of opportunity. You don't know what lies on the other side. You hear the echo of fear saying, what if you fail? But you also hear another voice, quieter yet stronger. It says, what if you fly? That single question, what if I fly, has built empires, created art, and changed lives. It is the heartbeat of courage. You see, the human soul is not built for safety. It's built for expansion. When you take a risk, you stretch your limits. You break through walls of doubt. You see how far you can truly go. That is why people who take risks live with a certain light in their eyes. They have tasted uncertainty and found power inside it. Even nature follows this law. The seed takes a risk when it breaks open to become a tree. The bird takes a risk when it leaves the nest for the first time. The ocean wave takes a risk every time it crashes, knowing it might break apart. But without that motion, there would be no life, no growth, no beauty. So, what is the final message of this story? It's simple but powerful. Risk and reward are not separate forces. They are one dance. You cannot have one without the other. To chase your dream, you must first face the shadow of fear. To win, you must first risk losing. To live, you must first be brave enough to try. The reward for risk is not just success, it's evolution. You grow beyond who you were. You become someone new. Every risk you take leaves a mark of strength on your soul. And perhaps, the greatest risk of all is not taking any risk at all. Because the safest road often leads nowhere. The person who fears failure ends up fearing life itself. But the one who risks, even when afraid, that person discovers something priceless. They discover that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. So remember, my friend, every time you face a choice that feels uncertain, every time your heart beats faster and your mind doubts, Recognize that you are standing at the border between risk and reward. And beyond that border lies growth, truth, and the life you were meant to live. The story of risk and reward will always belong to those who dare to write it, not with words, but with action. And perhaps one day when you look back at your own life, you will smile and say, yes, I took the risk, and that made all the difference.